true mysterious, there are stories no one can explain, people who vanished without a trace, and mysteries that still breathe quietly in the shadows, even decades later. You're about to enter a strange journey where the line between reality and the impossible begins to blur. This is not fiction, not a ghost story. Everything you're about to hear really happened, recorded, investigated, but never solved. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and if you're ready, we begin together to uncover the true mysterious stories, fragments of darkness still echoing from the hidden corners of history. The mysterious traveler, the man from Taured. Some events leave no trace, not because they never happened, but because they never truly belonged to this world. Tokyo, 1954. On a hot summer day, a well-dressed man arrived at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. He spoke fluent French, appeared European, and handed immigration officers a passport from a country no one had ever heard of, Taured. At first, officials thought it was a mistake, but the passport was legitimate, stamped with previous visas from France, Spain, and even Japan. It had all the hallmarks of a valid document. The man said he was on a business trip, his third visit to Japan that year. When asked where Taured was located, he pointed confidently to the region between France and Spain, where the Principality of Andorra sits on our maps. Except, he insisted it had always been called Taured, and he seemed genuinely baffled that no one else knew it. Suspicious, airport authorities took him in for questioning. To keep him overnight, they booked a room in a nearby hotel, posted 2 armed guards at his door, and held his documents for investigation. But by morning, the man had vanished. No signs of escape. The windows were sealed from the inside. The guards had seen nothing. Even his passport and belongings were gone. He had simply disappeared. Speculations ran wild. Was he an elite international spy, equipped with forged documents no one could detect? A time traveler caught between alternate realities? Or a slip of reality, a man who crossed over from a parallel dimension by mistake? No answers ever came. Police files remained open, then quietly vanished from records. And to this day, no trace of the man exists. No country named Taured has ever been found. But the story lingers, whispered in forums, documentaries, and late-night conversations about the strange cracks between worlds. Perhaps somewhere. In a version of Earth slightly off from our own, the man from Taured still walks the streets of his homeland. And perhaps one day, he'll cross over again. The woman in the red suitcase. They found the suitcase on a gray, windless morning in Norway's Isdalen Valley. A lone hiker had spotted something strange nestled between scorched shrubs near the footpath. Inside lay the body of a woman. No name, no ID, no one looking for her. It was November 1970 when Bergen police were called to investigate a peculiar scene in the icy hills of Isdalen, a place locals chillingly called the Valley of Death. The body was badly burned, lying in a strange position, arms folded over her chest, not like someone who collapsed in panic or despair. Around her were empty bottles of liquor, a heap of sleeping pills, and the lingering stench of gasoline. There were no identity documents. The labels on her clothes had been carefully cut away. As investigators retraced her final days, the story grew stranger. She had checked into multiple luxury hotels across Norway under different names, each time speaking various languages, German, Flemish, French, always alone, always guarded. In one hotel, she scribbled cryptic codes in a notebook. Some believed they were secret communications. Her suitcase, retrieved from a train station, deepened the mystery. Wigs, expensive watches, foreign currency from multiple countries, and a note with what appeared to be ciphered text. Every clue led to more questions. Was she a Cold War spy, a courier, or someone running from something worse than death? Authorities eventually ruled her death a suicide, but locals didn't believe it, nor did the journalists who followed the case for decades after. She was buried in a nameless grave, her identity unknown. The tombstone reads in Norwegian, "Here lies the unknown woman found in Isdalen Valley, November 1970. Even now, no one knows who she was. A spy? A wanderer? Or just a soul lost in the fog? The only certainty is this: her silence endures. The man who couldn't be caught, Roland T. Owen in room 46. Sometimes the true horror isn't something supernatural. Sometimes what haunts us most is a locked hotel room and a man no one could identify. In the year 1935, a young man checked into the President Hotel in Kansas City, USA. He gave the name Roland T. Owen. He brought only a comb, a toothbrush, and no luggage. He requested a small, simple room, room 1046. The receptionist noted he looked anxious, as if hiding from someone. The elevator operator later recalled that he refused help from anyone and avoided contact. Over the next 3 days, strange things began to unfold. A maid reported hearing him whisper on the phone with phrases like, "I don't want to eat. Call me later." Someone else claimed to have seen a second man inside the room, but no such guest had checked in. On the third morning, the hotel phone from room 1046 kept ringing with no response. A staff member finally entered the room and discovered Roland lying in a pool of blood. He was tied up, stabbed multiple times, and his skull was fractured. But the most disturbing part? All the doors were locked from the inside. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no weapon found. When asked who had done this to him, Roland whispered, "No one. I fell in the bathtub." He died hours later in the hospital. The police soon discovered there was no Roland T. Owen. The man they found might have been Artemis Ogletree, a 17-year-old who'd vanished from Alabama the year before. But then something even stranger happened. A woman who refused to identify herself called a newspaper and said she would cover the funeral expenses because he did the right thing. The mystery deepened. The identity of the second man in room 1046 was never discovered. No suspects were arrested. No motives confirmed. To this day, room 1046 remains one of America's most baffling unsolved cases. A man with no name killed in a sealed room, surrounded by silence, and secrets buried with him. Whatever happened in that room, the walls are still holding on to it. The Vanishing of Elisa Lam. Not all mysteries unfold in dark forests or ancient castles. Some happen right in the heart of a modern city, under security cameras, on the internet, in plain sight. And yet, no one truly knows what happened. In January 2013, a young Canadian woman named Elisa Lam traveled alone to Los Angeles. She checked into the infamous Cecil Hotel, a building soaked in tragedy, suicides, murders, drugs, and disappearances. Elisa was an avid blogger. She wrote often about her emotions, her thoughts, and her struggles with mental health. But no one could have predicted she would become the center of one of the most unsettling modern mysteries. On January 31st, Elisa vanished. She never left the hotel. Her belongings were still in her room. Security footage showed nothing unusual until the hotel released one specific elevator video. The world watched and recoiled. In the grainy clip, Elisa stands inside the elevator, pressing multiple floor buttons, then stepping in and out, over and over. She hides in the corner. She peeks into the hallway. She moves her arms in strange, erratic gestures, as if speaking to someone no one else can see. The internet erupted. Was it a ghost? Was she being followed? A ritual? A psychotic break? Weeks passed. Then, a guest complained that the water in their shower had a strange smell, ran dark, and had low pressure. Maintenance checked the rooftop water tanks. There, floating naked inside, was Elisa Lam's body. The tanks were sealed, heavy, and located on the roof, which was only accessible via a locked door and a ladder. The alarm to that area never went off. There were no bruises, no signs of struggle, and no official cause of death other than drowning. No one knows how she got there, or why. A young woman, alone in a haunted hotel, A video that has haunted millions, and a death that defies logic. Was it mental illness, a terrible accident, or something not of this world? We may never know, but one thing is certain: the elevator doors never closed, and her story still echoes in the pipes of that cursed hotel. The man on the run, the mystery of Blair Adams. Not everyone who runs is escaping, and not everyone who fears for their life knows what they're running from. This story begins like a disappearance and ends in a scene no one can explain. Blair Adams was 31 years old, Canadian, stable job, no criminal record, no known enemies, no drug abuse, no debts. He lived a quiet life until the summer of 1996, when he suddenly became convinced that someone was trying to kill him. He withdrew all his savings, thousands of dollars in cash, gold coins, jewelry. Then, without warning, he ran. He tried to cross into the United States by car, but border agents turned him back for carrying too much money. So he sold his car, bought a plane ticket to Germany, then changed his mind, flew to Washington, D.C. instead. From there, he rented a car and drove 800 kilometers south, all the way to Knoxville, Tennessee. He didn't know anyone there. He had no business, no appointments, no clear reason. What followed was a trail of bizarre behavior. He was seen wandering around gas stations, hotels, supermarkets, always glancing over his shoulder, like someone was watching. At one hotel, surveillance footage captured him rushing into the lobby, breathless. He paid for a room in cash, then never used it. He simply walked away, leaving the key in his pocket. And then, the next morning, workers discovered Blair's body in a nearby abandoned construction site. He was naked from the waist down, lying on the ground. Surrounding him were his cash, gold, passport, keys, all untouched. His clothes were turned inside out, his shoes removed, his watch smashed, and a clump of someone's hair gripped in his fist, as if he had fought back. The autopsy revealed something strange. He died from a sudden, violent blow to the stomach, which ruptured internal organs, a rare injury, almost impossible to inflict without a weapon, but no weapon was found. There were no drugs, no alcohol, no fingerprints, no suspects. No one knew where Blair had been that night. No one knew why he came to Knoxville, and no one has ever explained what or who killed him. A man runs across borders, across cities, across countries, from something invisible. He dies in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by the very things he was trying to protect. Money, ID, passport, all still there. What wasn't there was the truth. Blair Adams died that night, but the mystery lives on.